Hello, everybody. Thank you for clicking on. It is a special edition of DUFUS After Dark, starting a little bit early. Actually, been thinking about moving up to like 9 o'clock anyway. So we'll see how tonight goes. It might be like a test run. Um, we are 13 minutes, 31 seconds away from coverage of President Joe Biden and the State of the Union address for 2023, and that will be coming up here very soon. And we'll go to it once the coverage starts. I'm imagining that the coverage will start and there'll be all the pomp and circumstance before the actual speech. I don't know. That may be going on right now. Good evening, Katrina. Thank you for being here. Ohana Sissy, thank you for being here. Thank everybody for being here. If I missed anybody. No. Okay, cool. Cauliflower Cam, how are you? Judy Davis, hello. Yeah, we're gonna be watching, and we'll be doing some commentary. We'll be. I'm anticipating there might be some disruptions from the party in opposition to President Biden. So we'll see if that plays out as well. And hi, Shelley. We got a few minutes here, so I want to touch on a couple of things, and let's just do what we normally do here and look at the headlines from mainstream media as far as what they are saying. What they're saying is breaking news here. Um, there we go. There we go. According to, geez, touchy. There we go. Let's try this one more time. According to CNN, headline survivors are still being pulled from the rubble more than 24 hours after the second large earthquake in Turkey in the same area. One that was, depending on who the measurements are from, 7.8 to 8.1, and then the second one from 7.5 to 7.8. Death toll well over 5,000, and it continues to grow. From the AP News, that of course is Associated Press, not Anarchy Princess. Featured guests joining President Biden's State of the Union address tonight includes Bono, however you choose to pronounce it, from YouTube. He's going to be up in the box tonight. From Politico, Chinese defense minister refused to talk to our secretary after the balloon incident. The New York Times, Memphis officer texted photos of Tyree Nichols after the beating, new documents show. And again, it's pointing more and more towards that this was a personal vendetta, and that will, of course, more than likely lead to premeditation. NBC Boston, she killed the kids. Prosecutors outlined chilling timeline in the Duxbury tragedy. And that is in the Boston area. NBC News Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is carrying a balloon to mock Biden's China response. That's what's going on headline wise. One other thing I wanted to touch on, actually two things I want to touch on news wise before we get to the State of the Union. One of the things I just became aware of it. Another intruder breached the home of Air Force One, one of the nation's most sensitive military bases, and this time a resident opened fire on the trespasser. That was at Joint Base Andrews, and that was Monday. It occurred about 11:30 a.m. yesterday. Quote, a man gained unauthorized access to Joint Base Andrews housing area, and said in a statement posted on Twitter. A resident discharged the firearm. Security forces arrived on scene to apprehend the intruder, and law enforcement is investigating the incident. Joint Base Andrews is home to the fleet of blue and white presidential aircraft, including Air Force One and the Doomsday 747 aircraft that can serve as the nation's airborne nuclear command and control center if needed during a nuclear war. Otherwise, it wouldn't be the nuclear command center. So things, as always, just a little bit froggy, and always potentially a little bit more froggy. One final thing that normally we do Science Tuesday on Tuesdays, and I told everybody I was going to do something on the Poseidon, the Russian unmanned nuclear drone submarine, and I'm just going to share. We've got 8 minutes. I'm going to share this quick video before we get to the coverage. Because, and the reason we're doing this is because I had a story, I think it was last Thursday night, about that Putin had threatened Russia, or had threatened Great Britain, had threatened the English Isles with this weapon, and I said I was going to do a little bit more about it. Here it is.
The territory of a country by creating large areas of radioactive contamination unsuitable for military, economic or otherwise activity for a long period of time. In 2018, a leaked draft of the Pentagon's Nuclear Posture Review acknowledged Russia was developing a new intercontinental, nuclear-armed, nuclear-powered underwater autonomous torpedo. The torpedo, which the Russians named Poseidon, is about 20 meters long, can reach a depth of 1,000 meters, and has a range of at least 10,000 kilometers. Most of its true abilities are still shrouded in mystery, but its main strength is thought to be its ability to operate very deep and very fast underwater, making it difficult to intercept. The Poseidon is referred to as a drone because it can navigate independently and may even have the ability to be directed remotely or have its mission aborted after launch. It is believed to have a titanium hull, which allows it to withstand pressure at extreme depths and could potentially be used as a seabed weapon. The Poseidon is estimated to have a top speed of over 50 nautical miles per hour, or more than 90 kilometers per hour, which would make it twice as fast as a conventional submarine, and that would be much harder to detect. Defense experts say that based on what is known about the weapon and its dimensions, the yield of a Poseidon nuclear warhead could reach 2 megatons, a figure repeatedly reported by the Russian news agency TASS in recent years. That's more than 100 times the power packed by the Hiroshima bomb, which is about 15 kilotons, and more than 10 times that of the latest version of the US-developed B-61 nuclear bomb. Atomic torpedoes have been around for a long time, of course since around the 1950s. And your normal torpedo is about half a meter in diameter and a few tons in weight, Hambling said. This thing is at least 1.5 meters in diameter and weighs tens of tons, so it carries a very large warhead. Cashapp said a Poseidon attack could definitely render the coastal city uninhabitable or destroy most carrier battle groups at sea. It could wipe out coastal cities, but not the UK as a whole, he said, adding that dealing with flooding caused by radioactive water would be a challenge. Such an attack would release a large radioactive cloud over the sea that would cause devastation in a region, noting that France, Belgium, the Netherlands and the Scandinavian countries would also likely be affected. Russia has been quite vocal about its nuclear capabilities since starting its invasion of Ukraine, warning the West that it has the right to use nuclear weapons to counter existential threats. The destruction of conventional capabilities in the first months of this campaign means that Russia's conventional deterrent is now much less threatening than it might have been on February 24 in many countries, Cashapp said. Brandishing its nuclear weapons is a way for Moscow to prevent the possibility of direct NATO intervention in the conflict, he added. A popular Russian state TV broadcaster has warned that Moscow could wipe Britain off the map with a nuclear tsunami in retaliation for supporting Ukraine. In his Sunday night primetime show on Channel 1, one of the most watched in Russia, Dmitry Kiselyov claimed on May 1 that the country's Poseidon nuclear underwater drone strike could sink Britain under a 500-meter-long tidal wave of radioactive seawater.
So there you go. That is what that is a brief synopsis of what the Poseidon, the Russian underwater drone, is capable of. This was such a unique weapon that they had to build a submarine big enough to put these in to deploy them. They have possibly up to 30 of these unmanned drone nuclear subs. And again, the purpose is that they can attack without any detection, again, causing a potential tsunami tidal wave, radioactive tidal wave, and if not, in making all the water inhabitable. Just something to think about. That's what the threat that Russia has put out to England, as you heard in that little synopsis. That's what's going on. So, hello, Nathan. Russia's broke. They can't get ammo and food to the front lines in Ukraine. They are giving the conscript. Yeah. And I haven't talked about it a lot. And a year ago, the whole topic was what was going on there, and I was getting a whole lot of information. I'm still getting information, but I haven't been talking about it a lot. It is a meat grinder over there. Not only are the Ukrainians losing, and I'm telling you the truth from what I hear. Not only are the Russians losing troops in mass, but the Ukrainians are suffering losses. In many cases, triple digits in one day, and it's the dead of winter, and the fighting has not lessened. If anything, it has increased as Russia attempts to gain more and more land. And remember, some of these people were Ukrainian yesterday, and they wake up today, and Russia has claimed their land, claimed the land as their land. We often complain about what goes on here in our own country, but we need at times to remember how good we really do have it here, and as I've said often, enjoy these days. So that will take us. Hello, Mater. Hello to everybody that I might have missed watching. If you're in the chat, or if you're watching not in the chat, or if you're watching on the replay, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, thanks for clicking on. We do appreciate it. And we're going to get ready to go to the State of the Union. Hopefully, it says it will begin shortly. Make sure we are. Okay, I don't want the press briefing. All right. Let's see what's happening here, if we can. All right. It's supposed to start at 9 o'clock. It is 9 o'clock, and it's saying it will begin shortly. So, hi, Sandy Foster. Uh, Putin is going to conscript 500,000 more. They're just going to keep throwing bodies at it. Yeah. And, you know, um, we have checked in periodically with our friends in Russia who got out, and they're currently in Turkey, but they are on the coast of Turkey, and they weren't impacted by the earthquake. However, there's a fire, a massive fire in one of the port cities. So I'm hoping we get a video out soon. But yeah, the devastation, and if since it is Science Tuesday, if the magnetic poles are in the process of flipping, we know they're migrating. If the magnetic field weakens to the point where solar activity plays an even more significant part, we can expect a lot more earthquakes, a lot more volcanoes, a lot more intensive weather. Um, it was labeled global warming mistakenly. It should have been called climate change all along. It's a lot more to do with the cycle of the Earth than the impact of the limited impact. Actually, when you look at the percentages, but anyway, sad situation in Turkey, and anticipate more significant uh, more significant events as the Earth changes. And if that is what indeed is happening, I believe it is. But my job here is not having you telling you what to think or how to think, but just giving you things to think about. We got some little rumbling going on in the background, so let's check back over and see if we have a picture from inside the chamber. We do. All right, here we go. Again, Dr. Jill Biden, the wife of the president, she was at the Grammys the other night, I guess. This is the one time where the United States government is at its weakest. This would be the Achilles heel, if you would. This would be the most effective way to render the United States. This would be the most effective way to render the United States
Mr. Speaker,
inapt.
The President of the United States.
A little lukewarm. At this event, almost every congressman, almost every senator, almost congressman, meaning House of Representatives, almost every member of the House, almost every senator are there. All of the justices of the Supreme Court are there. All of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the military are there, all located, as well as the president and the vice president, all located in the same place at the same time. So if anybody questioned why security was tightened in Washington, D.C., why there were barbed wire going up around certain areas, chances are one of the reason is to heighten the security around this important event. This is an historical event. The President of the United States does this every single year, giving the state of our union, giving the condition of our country, and slowly making his way in. There you see the president. And again, we will, it'll be interesting to see the responses. There's the Speaker of the House and the Vice President, also the President of the Senate. Chuck Schumer behind him, it looks like. And the Republicans will give a response. The party not in power, that is also one of the traditions. The party not in power gives a response to the presidential address on the same night. And I'll go ahead and throw it out that the polls, the pre-2024 polls, almost unanimously are showing that, and we're just giving you facts, showing that over half of the country does not want President Biden to run for a second term, and an even bigger margin does not want Donald Trump to run for a second term. So the next 2 years, we will have a stagnant Congress. We will have a stagnant government, and people will be even more ready for change come 2024. Who are some potential names? For the Republicans, for the traditional Republicans, of course, look for Adam Kinzinger and Liz Cheney. I honestly think Liz Cheney is going to be one of the front runners. Everybody right now is talking about. I've already forgotten her name. She was a Democrat and flipped. And of course, they're talking about DeSantis in Florida. But we'll talk more about that. Let's go to the floor of the United States House of Representatives and the address from the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and the distinct honor to present to you the President of the United States.
Mr. Speaker. Thank you. You can smile. It's okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Please. Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, good to see you guys up there. Members of Congress, by the way, Chief Justice, I may need a court order. She gets to go to the game tomorrow, next week. I have to stay home. Got to work something out here. Members of the Cabinet, leaders of our military, Chief Justice, Associate Justice, and retired Justice of the Supreme Court, and to you, my fellow Americans. You know, I start tonight by congratulating the 118th Congress and the new Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy. Speaker, I don't want to ruin your reputation, but I look forward to working with you. And I want to congratulate the new leader of the House Democrats, the first African-American minority leader in history, Hakeem Jeffries. He won in spite of the fact I campaigned for him. Congratulations to the longest-serving leader in the history of the United States Senate, Mitch McConnell. Where are you, Mitch? And congratulations to Chuck Schumer, another term as Senate Minority Leader. I think you. Only this time you have a slightly bigger majority, Mr. Leader. You're in a majority leader. About that much bigger? Yeah. Well, I tell you what. I want to give special recognition to someone who I think is going to be considered the greatest speaker in the history of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi. Folks, the story of America is a story of progress and resilience, of always moving forward, of never, ever giving up. It's a story unique among all nations. We're the only country that has emerged from every crisis we've ever entered stronger than we got into it. Look, folks, that's what we're doing again. 2 years ago, the economy was reeling. I stand here tonight after we've created, with the help of many people in this room, 12 million new jobs, more jobs created in 2 years than any president's created in 4 years, because of you all, because of the American people. 2 years ago, COVID had shut down, our businesses were closed, our schools were robbed of so much, and today, COVID no longer controls our lives. And 2 years ago, democracy faced its greatest threats in the Civil War, and today, though bruised, our democracy remains unbowed and unbroken. As we gather here tonight, we're writing the next chapter in the great American story, a story of progress and resilience. When world leaders ask me to define America, and they do, believe it or not, I say I can define it in one word, and I mean this: possibilities. We don't think anything is beyond our capacity. Everything is a possibility. You know, we're often told that Democrats and Republicans can't work together. But over the past 2 years, we've proved the cynics and naysayers wrong. Yes, we disagreed plenty. And yes, there were times when Democrats went alone. But time and again, Democrats and Republicans came together to defend a stronger and safer Europe. You came together to pass once in a generation infrastructure law, building bridges connecting our nation and our people. We came together to pass the most significant law ever, helping victims exposed to toxic burn pits. And in fact, it was important. And in fact, I signed over 300 bipartisan pieces of legislation since becoming president, from reauthorizing the Violence Against Women Act, the Electoral Count Reform Act, the Respect for Marriage Act that protects the right to marry the person you love, and to my Republican friends, if we could work together the last Congress, there's no reason we can't work together and find consensus on important things in this Congress as well. I think folks, you all are as formed as I am, but I think the people sent us a clear message. Fighting for the sake of fighting, power for the sake of power, conflict for the sake of conflict gets us nowhere. That's always been my vision of our country, and I know it's many of yours. To restore the soul of this nation, to rebuild the backbone of America, America's middle class, and to unite the country. We've been sent here to finish the job, in my view. For decades, the middle class has been hollowed out in more than, and not no one administration, but for a long time. Too many good-paying manufacturing jobs move overseas. Factories closed down. Once thriving cities and towns that many of you represent became shadows of what they used to be. And along the way, something else we lost: pride, our sense of self-worth. I ran for president to fundamentally change things, to make sure our economy works for everyone, so we can all feel that pride in what we do. To build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down. Because when the middle class does well, the poor have a ladder up, and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well. I know a lot of you always kid me for always quoting my dad, but my dad used to say, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. He really would say this. It's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. Well, folks, so let's look at the results. We're not finished yet by any stretch of the imagination, but unemployment rate is at 3.4%, a 50-year low. A near record unemployment. Near record unemployment for Black and Hispanic workers. We've already created, your help, 800,000 good-paying manufacturing jobs, the fastest growth in 40 years. And where is it written? Where is it written that America can't lead the world in manufacturing? And I don't know where that's written. For too many decades, we imported projects and exported jobs. Now, thanks to what you've all done, we're exporting American products and creating American jobs. Folks, inflation has been a global problem because the pandemic disrupted our supply chains, and Putin's unfair and brutal war in Ukraine disrupted energy supplies as well as food supplies, blocking all that grain in Ukraine. But we're better positioned than any country on earth right now. But we have more to do. But here at home, inflation is coming down. Here at home, gas prices are down $1.50 from their peak. Food inflation is coming down, not fast enough, but coming down. Inflation has fallen every month for the last 6 months, while take-home pay has gone up. Additionally, over the last 2 years, a record 10 million Americans applied to start new businesses. 10 million. And by the way, every time someone starts a small business is an act of hope. And Madam Vice President, I want to thank you for leading that effort to ensure that small businesses have access to capital and the historic laws we enacted that are going to just come into being. Standing here last year, I shared with you a story of American genius and possibilities. Semiconductors, small computer chips the size of a fingerprint that power everything, from cell phones to automobiles and so much more. These chips were invented in America. Let's get that straight. They were invented in America. We used to make 40% of the world's chips. In the last several decades, we lost our edge. We're down to only producing 10%. We all saw what happened during the pandemic when chip factories shut down overseas. Today's automobiles need 3,000 chips, each of those automobiles. But American automobiles couldn't make enough cars because there weren't enough chips. Car prices went up, people got laid off, so did everything from refrigerators to cell phones. We can never let that happen again. That's why we came together to pass the Bipartisan Chips and Science Act. Folks, I know I've been criticized for saying this, but I'm not changing my view. We're going to make sure the supply chain for America begins in America. The supply chain begins in America. We've already created 800,000 new manufacturing jobs without this law, before the law kicks in. With this new law, we're going to create hundreds of thousands of new jobs across the country. And I mean all across the country, throughout not just the coast, but through the middle of the country as well. That's going to come from companies that have announced more than $300 billion in investment in American manufacturing over the next few years. Outside of Columbus, Ohio, Intel is building semiconductor factories on 1,000 acres, literally a field of dreams. It's going to create 10,000 jobs, that one investment, 7,000 construction jobs, 3,000 jobs in those factories once they're finished. They call them factories. Jobs paying an average of $130,000 a year, and many do not require a college degree. Jobs. Because we work together, these jobs where people don't have to leave home to search for opportunity. And it's just getting started. Think about the new homes, the small businesses, the medium-sized businesses. So much more that's going to be needed to support those 3,000 permanent jobs and the factories that are going to be built. Talk to mayors and governors, Democrats and Republicans, and they'll tell you what this means for their communities. We're seeing these field of dreams transform to the heartland. But to maintain the strongest economy in the world, we need the best infrastructure in the world. And folks, as you all know, we used to be #1 in the world in infrastructure. We've sunk to 13th in the world. The United States of America, 13th in the world in infrastructure, modern infrastructure. But now we're coming back because we came together and passed the bipartisan infrastructure law, the largest investment in infrastructure since President Eisenhower's interstate highway system. And folks, already we've funded over 20,000 projects, including major airports from Boston to Atlanta to Portland. Projects that are going to put thousands of people to work rebuilding our highways, our bridges, our railroads, our tunnels, ports, airports, clean water, high-speed internet, all across America. Urban, rural, tribal. And folks, we're just getting started. We're just getting started. And I mean this sincerely. I want to thank my Republican friends who voted for the law, and my Republican friends who voted against it as well. But I still get asked to fund the projects in those districts as well. But don't worry. I promised I'd be a president for all Americans. We'll fund these projects. And I'll see you at the groundbreaking. Look, this law will further unite all of America. Projects like Brent Spence Bridge in Kentucky over the Ohio River, built 60 years ago, badly needed repairs, one of the nation's most congested freight routes, carrying $2 billion worth of freight every single day across the Ohio River. And folks, I've been talking about fixing it for decades, but we're really finally going to get it done. I went there last month with Democrats and Republicans, and from both states, to deliver a commitment of $1.6 billion for this project. And while I was there, I met a young woman named Sarah, who's here tonight. I don't know where Sarah is. Is she up in the box? I don't know. Sarah, how are you? Well, Sarah, for 30 years, I learned, she told me she'd been a proud member of the Iron Workers Local 44, known as the Cowboys in the Sky. The folks who built Cincinnati's skyline. Sarah said she can't wait to be 10 stories above the Ohio River building that new bridge. God bless her. That's pride. And that's what we're also building. We're building pride. Look, we're also replacing poisonous lead pipes that go into 10 million homes in America, 400,000 school and child care centers. So every child in America can drink the water instead of having permanent damage to their brain. Look, we're making sure that every community in America has access to affordable high-speed internet. No parent should have to drive by McDonald's parking lot to help them do their homework online with their kids, which many thousands were doing across the country. And when we do these projects, and again I get criticized for this, but I make no excuses for it, we're going to buy American. We're going to buy America. Folks, and it's totally consistent with international trade rules. Buy America has been the law since 1933, but for too long, past administrations, Democrat and Republican, have fought to get around it. Not anymore. Tonight, I'm announcing new standards that require all construction materials used in federal infrastructure projects to be made in America. Made in America. I mean it. Lumber, glass, drywall, fiber optic cable. And on my watch, American roads, bridges, and American highways are going to be made with American products as well. Folks, my economic plan is about investing in places and people that have been forgotten. So many of you listening to me tonight, I know you feel it. So many of you felt like you've just simply been forgotten. Amid the economic upheaval of the past 4 decades, too many people have been left behind and treated like they're invisible. Maybe that's you watching from home. Remember the jobs that went away. You remember them, don't you? The folks at home remember them. You wonder whether the path even exists anymore for your children to get ahead without having to move away. Well, that's why I get that. That's why we're building an economy where no one's left behind. Jobs are coming back. Pride is coming back because choices we made in the last several years. You know, this is, in my view, a blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America and make a real difference in your lives at home. For example, too many of you lay in bed at night like my dad did, staring at the ceiling, wondering what in God's name happens if your spouse gets cancer, or your child gets deadly ill, or something happens to you. What are you going to have? You get money to pay for those medical bills? Or are you going to have to sell the house or try to get a second mortgage on it? I get it. I get it. With the Inflation Reduction Act that I signed into law, we're taking on powerful interests to bring health care costs down so you can sleep better at night with more security. You know, we pay more for prescription drugs than any nation in the world. Let me say it again. We pay more for prescription drugs than any major nation on earth. For example, 1 in 10 Americans has diabetes. Many of you in this chamber do, and in the audience. But every day, millions need insulin to control their diabetes so they can literally stay alive. Insulin's been around for over 100 years. The guy who invented it didn't even patent it because he wanted it to be available for everyone. It cost the drug companies roughly $10 a vial to make that insulin. Packaging and all, you may get up to $13. But Big Pharma has been unfairly charging people hundreds of dollars, $400 to $500 a month, making record profits. Not anymore. Not anymore. So many things that we did are only now coming to fruition. We said we were doing this, and we said we passed the law to do it, but people didn't know because the law didn't take effect until January 1 of this year. We capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month for seniors on Medicare. People are just finding out. I'm sure you're getting the same calls I'm getting. Look, there are millions of other Americans who do not or are not on Medicare, including 200,000 young people with type 1 diabetes who need this insulin to stay alive. Let's finish the job this time. Let's cap the cost of insulin for everybody at $35. Folks, the big pharma is still going to do very well, I promise you all. I promise you they're going to do very well. This law also caps and won't even go into effect until 2025. It costs out-of-pocket drug costs for seniors on Medicare at a maximum of $2,000 a year. You don't have to pay more than $2,000 a year, no matter how much your drug costs are. Because you know why? You all know it. Many of you, like many in my family, have cancer. You know the drugs can range from $10,000, $11,000, $14,000, $15,000 for the cancer drugs. If drug prices rise faster than inflation, drug companies are going to have to pay Medicare back the difference. We're finally giving Medicare the power to negotiate drug prices. Bringing down prescription drug costs doesn't just save seniors money, it cuts the federal deficit by billions of dollars, by hundreds of billions of dollars, because these prescription drugs are drugs purchased by Medicare to keep their commitment to the seniors. Well, guess what? Instead of paying $400 or $500 a month, you're paying $15. That's a lot of savings for the federal government. And by the way, why would we want that? Now, some members here are threatening, and I know it's not an official party position, so I'm not going to exaggerate, but threatening to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act. As my coach, that's okay, that's fair. As my football coach used to say, lots of luck in your senior year. Make no mistake, if you try anything to raise the cost of prescription drugs, I will veto it. Look, I'm pleased to say that more Americans have health insurance now than ever in history. A record 16 million people are enrolled in the Affordable Care Act. And thanks to the law I signed last year, saving millions are saving $800 a year on their premiums. And by the way, that law was written and the benefit expires in 2025. So my plea to some of you, at least in this audience, let's finish the job and make these savings permanent. Expand coverage of Medicaid. Look, the Inflation Reduction Act is also the most significant investment ever in climate change. Ever. Lowering utility bills, creating American jobs, leading the world to a clean energy future. I visited the devastating aftermath of record floods, droughts, storms, and wildfires from Arizona to Mexico to all the way up to the Canadian border. More timber has been burned, as I've observed from helicopters, than the entire state of Missouri. And we don't have global warming? Not a problem. In addition to emergency recovery, from Puerto Rico to Florida to Idaho, we're rebuilding for the long term. New electric grids that are able to weather major storms and not prevent those forest fires. Roads and water systems will withstand the next big flood. Clean energy to cut pollution and create jobs in communities often left behind. We're going to build 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations installed across the country by tens of thousands of IBEW workers. And we're helping families save more than $1,000 a year with tax credits to purchase electric vehicles and efficient appliances, energy-efficient appliances. Historic conservation efforts to be responsible stewards of our land. Let's face reality. The climate crisis doesn't care if you're in a red or blue state. It's an existential threat. We have an obligation, not to ourselves, but to our children and grandchildren to confront it. I'm proud of how America at last is stepping up to the challenge. We're still going to need oil and gas for a while. But guess what? No, we do. But there's so much more to do. We got to finish the job. And we pay for these investments in our future by finally making the wealthiest and biggest corporations begin to pay their fair share. Just begin. Look, I'm a capitalist. But pay your fair share. I think a lot of you at home agree with me and many people that you know. The tax system is not fair. It is not fair. Look, the idea that in 2020, 55 of the largest corporations in America, the Fortune 500, made $40 billion in profits and paid zero in federal taxes? Zero? Folks, it's simply not fair. But now, because of the law I signed, billion-dollar companies have to pay a minimum of 15%. God love them. 15%. That's less than a nurse pays. And let me be crystal clear. I said at the very beginning, under my plans, as long as I'm president, nobody earning less than $400,000 will pay an additional penny in taxes. Nobody, not one penny. But let's finish the job. There's more to do. We have to reward work, not just wealth. Pass my proposal for the billionaire minimum tax. You know, there's 1,000 billionaires in America. It's up from about 600 in the beginning of the term. But no billionaire should be paying a lower tax rate than a school teacher or firefighter. I mean it. Think about it. I mean, look. I know you aren't enthusiastic about that, but think about it. Think about it. Have you noticed Big Oil just reported its profits, record profits? Last year they made $200 billion in the midst of a global energy crisis. I think it's outrageous. Why? They invested too little of that profit to increase domestic production. And when I talk to a couple of them, they say, we're afraid you're going to shut down all the oil wells and all the oil refineries anyway, so why should we invest in them? I said, we're going to need oil for at least another decade. And that's going to exceed, and beyond that, we're going to need it. Production. If they had, in fact, invested in the production to keep gas prices down, instead, they used the record profits to buy back their own stock, rewarding their CEOs and shareholders. Corporations ought to do the right thing. That's why I propose we quadruple the tax on corporate stock buybacks and encourage long-term investments. They'll still make considerable profit. Let's finish the job and close the loopholes that allow very wealthy to avoid paying their taxes. Instead of cutting the number of audits for wealthy taxpayers, I just signed a law to reduce the deficit by $114 billion by cracking down on wealthy tax cheats. That's being fiscally responsible. In the last 2 years, my administration has cut the deficit by more than $1.7 trillion. the largest deficit reduction in American history. Under the previous administration, the American deficit went up 4 years in a row. Because those record deficits, no president added more to the national debt in any 4 years than my predecessor. Nearly 25% of the entire national debt that took over 200 years to accumulate was added by just one administration alone, the last one. They're the facts. Check it out. Check it out. How did Congress respond to that debt? They did the right thing. They lifted the debt ceiling 3 times without preconditions or crisis. They paid American bills to prevent an economic disaster in the country. So tonight I'm asking the Congress to follow suit. Let's commit here tonight to the full faith and credit of the United States of America will never, ever be questioned. So some of my Republican friends want to take the economy hostage. I get it, unless I agree to their economic plans. All of you at home should know what those plans are. Instead of making the wealthy pay their fair share, some Republicans want Medicare and Social Security to sunset. I'm not saying it's a majority. Let me give you, anybody who doubts it, contact my office. I'll give you a copy. I'll give you a copy of the proposal. That means Congress doesn't vote. Well, I'm glad to see you. And I tell you, I enjoy conversion. You know, it means if Congress doesn't keep the programs the way they are, they'd go away. Other Republicans say, I'm not saying it's a majority of you. I don't even think it's even a significant, but it's being proposed by individuals. I'm not politely not naming them, but it's being proposed by some of you.
Mike Pence, Jim Jordan.
Folks, the idea is that we're not going to be moved into being threatened to default on the debt if we don't respond. Folks, as we all apparently agree, Social Security and Medicare is off the books now, right? They're not to be started. All right. I'm ready. We got you. Social Security and Medicare are a lifeline for millions of seniors. Americans have to pay into them from the very first paycheck they started. So tonight, let's all agree, and we apparently are. Let's stand up for seniors. Stand up and show them. We'll not cut Social Security. We will not cut Medicare. Those benefits belong to the American people. They earned it. And if anyone tries to cut Social Security, which apparently no one's going to do, and if anyone tries to cut Medicare, I'll stop them. I'll veto it. And look, I'm not going to allow them to be taken away. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. But apparently it's not going to be a problem. Next month, when I offer my fiscal plan, I ask my Republican friends to lay down their plan as well. I really mean it. Let's sit down together and discuss our mutual plans together. Let's do that. I can tell you, the plan I'm going to show you is going to cut the deficit by another $2 trillion. And it won't cut a single bit of Medicare or Social Security. In fact, we're going to extend the Medicare Trust Fund at least 2 decades, because that's going to be the next argument. How do we keep it solvent, right? Well, we'll not raise tax on anyone making under 400 grand, but we'll pay for it the way we talked about tonight, by making sure that the wealthy and big corporations pay their fair share. Look. Here's the deal. They aren't just taking advantage of the tax code. They're taking advantage of you, the American consumer. Here's my message to all of you out there. I have your back. We're already preventing Americans from receiving surprise medical bills, stopping $1 billion surprise bills per month so far. We're protecting seniors' life savings by cracking down on nursing homes that commit fraud, endanger patient safety, prescribe drugs that are not needed. Millions of Americans can now save thousands of dollars because they can finally get a hearing aid over the counter without a prescription. Look, capitalism without competition is not capitalism. It's extortion. It's exploitation. Last year, I cracked down with the help of many of you on foreign shipping companies that were making you pay higher prices for every good coming into the country. I signed a bipartisan bill that cut shipping costs by 90%, helping American farmers, businessmen, and consumers. Let's finish the job. Pass the bipartisan legislation to strengthen antitrust enforcement and prevent big online platforms from giving their own products an unfair advantage. My administration is also taking on junk fees, those hidden surcharges too many companies use to make you pay more. For example, we're making airlines show you the full ticket price up front, refund your money if your flight is canceled or delayed. We've reduced exorbitant bank overdrafts by saving consumers more than $1 billion a year. We're cutting credit card late fees by 75% from $30 to $8. Look, junk fees may not matter to the very wealthy, but they matter to most other folks in homes like the one I grew up in, like many of you did. They add up to hundreds of dollars a month. They make it harder for you to pay your bills or afford that family trip. I know how unfair it feels when a company overcharges you and gets away with it. Not anymore. We've written a bill to stop it all. It's called the Junk Fee Prevention Act. We're going to ban surprise resort fees that hotels charge on your bill. Those fees can cost you up to $90 a night at hotels that aren't even resorts. The idea that cable, internet, and cell phone companies can charge you $200 or more if you decide to switch to another provider. Give me a break. We can stop service fees on tickets to concerts and sporting events and make companies disclose all the fees up front. And we'll prohibit airlines from charging $50 round trip for a family just to be able to sit together. Baggage fees are bad enough. Airlines can't treat your child like a piece of baggage. Americans are tired of being. We're tired of being played for suckers. So pass the Junk Fee Prevention Act so companies stop ripping us off. For too long, workers have been getting stiffed, but not anymore. We're beginning to restore the dignity of work. For example, I should have known this, but I didn't until 2 years ago. 30 million workers have to sign non-compete agreements for the jobs they take. 30 million. So a cashier at a burger place can't walk across town and take the same job at another burger place and make a few bucks more. It just changed. But they just changed it because we exposed it. That was part of the deal, guys. Look it up. But not anymore. We're banning those agreements so companies have to compete for workers and pay them what they're worth. And I must tell you, this is bound to get a response from my friends on my left but the right. I'm so sick and tired of companies breaking the law by preventing workers from organizing. Pass the PRO Act, because businesses have a right, workers have a right to form a union. And let's guarantee all workers have a living wage. Let's make sure working parents can afford to raise a family with sick days, paid family medical leave, affordable child care. That's going to enable millions of more people to go and stay at work. And let's restore the full child tax credit, which gave tens of millions of parents some breathing room and cut child poverty in half to the lowest level in history. And by the way, when we do all these things, we increase productivity. We increase economic growth. So let's finish the job. and get more families access to affordable, quality housing. Let's get seniors who want to stay in their homes the care they need to do so. Let's give more breathing room to millions of family caregivers looking after their loved ones. Pass my plan so we get seniors and people with disabilities the home care and services they need. And support the workers who are doing God's work. These plans are fully paid for and we can afford to do them. Restoring the dignity of work means making education an affordable ticket to the middle class. You know, when we made public education, 12 years of it, universal in the last century, we made the best educated, best paid, we became the best educated, best paid nation in the world. But the rest of the world's caught up. It's caught up. Jill, my wife, who teaches full time, has an expression. I hope I get it right, kid. Any nation that out-educates us is going to out-compete us. Any nation that out-educates is going to out-compete us. Folks, we all know 12 years of education is not enough to win the economic competition of the 21st century. We want to have the best educated workforce. Let's finish the job by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old. Studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school and go on to earn a 2- or 4-year degree, no matter their background they came from. Let's give public school teachers a raise. We're making progress by reducing student debt, increasing Pell Grants for working and middle-class families. Let's finish the job and connect students to career opportunities starting in high school. Provide access to 2 years of community college, the best career training in America, in addition to being a pathway to a 4-year degree. Let's offer every American a path to a good career, whether they go to college or not. And folks, in the midst of the COVID crisis, when schools were closed and we were shutting down everything, let's recognize how far we came in the fight against the pandemic itself. While the virus is not gone, thanks to the resilience of the American people and the ingenuity of medicine, we've broken the COVID grip on us. COVID deaths are down by 90%. We've saved millions of lives and opened up our country. We opened our country back up, and soon we'll end the public health emergency. But that's called a public health emergency. But we'll remember the toll and pain that's never going to go away. More than 1 million Americans lost their lives to COVID. 1 million. Families grieving, children orphaned, empty chairs at the dining room table constantly reminding you that she used to sit there. Remembering them, we remain vigilant. We still need to monitor dozens of variants and support new vaccines and treatments. So Congress needs to fund these efforts and keep America safe. And as we emerge from this crisis stronger, we're also got to double down on prosecuting criminals who stole relief money meant to keep workers and small businesses afloat. Before I came to office, you remember, during that campaign, the big issue was about inspector generals who would protect taxpayers' dollars who were sidelined. They were fired. Many people said we don't need them. And fraud became rampant. Last year, I told you the watchdogs are back. Since then, we've recovered billions of taxpayers' dollars. Now let's triple the anti-fraud strike force going after these criminals, double the statute of limitations on these crimes, and crack down on identity fraud by criminal syndicates stealing billions of dollars from the American people. And the data shows that for every dollar we put into fighting fraud, the taxpayers get back at least 10 times as much. It matters. It matters. Look, COVID left its scars, like the spike in violent crime in 2020, the first year of the pandemic. We have an obligation to make sure all people are safe. Public safety depends on public trust, as all of us know. But too often that trust is violated. Joining us tonight are the parents of Tyree Nichols. Welcome. We had to bury Tyree last week. As many of you personally know, there's no words to describe the heartache or grief of losing a child. But imagine if you lost that child at the hands of the law. Imagine having to worry whether your son or daughter came home from walking down the street, or playing in the park, or just driving a car. Most of us in here have never had to have the talk that brown and black parents have had to have with their children. Bo, Hunter, Ashley, my children, I never had to have the talk with them. I never had to tell them, if a police officer pulls you over, turn your interior lights on right away. Don't reach for your license. Keep your hands on the steering wheel.
Wow.
Imagine having to worry like that every single time your kid got in a car. Here's what Tyree's mother shared with me when I spoke to her. When I asked her how she finds the courage to carry on and speak out. With the faith of God, she said her son was, quote, a beautiful soul, and something good will come of this. Imagine how much courage and care that takes. It's up to us, to all of us. We all want the same thing. Neighborhoods free of violence. Law enforcement who earns the community's trust. Just as every cop, when they pin on that badge in the morning, has a right to be able to go home at night, so does everybody else out there. Our children have a right to come home safely. Equal protection under the law is a covenant we have with each other in America. We know police officers put their lives on the line every single night and day. And we know we ask them in many cases to do too much, to be counselors, social workers, psychologists, responding to drug overdoses, mental health crises, and so much more. In one sense, we ask much too much of them. I know most cops and their families are good, decent, honorable people, the vast majority. But they risk their lives every time they put that shield on. But what happened to Tyree in Memphis happens too often. We have to do better. Give law enforcement the real training they need. Hold them to higher standards. Help them succeed in keeping us safe. We also need more first responders and professionals to address the growing mental health, substance abuse challenges. More resources to reduce violent crime and gun crime. More community intervention programs. More investment in housing, education, and job training. All this can help prevent violence in the first place. When police officers or police departments violate the public trust, they must be held accountable. With the support of the families of victims, civil rights groups, and law enforcement, I signed an executive order for all federal officers, banning chokeholds, restricting no-knock warrants, and other key elements of the George Floyd Act. Let's commit ourselves to make the words of Tyler's mom true. Something good must come from this. Something good. And all of us, Folks, it's difficult, but it's simple. All of us in this chamber, we need to rise to this moment. We can't turn away. Let's do what we know in our hearts that we need to do. Let's come together to finish the job on police reform. Do something. Do something. That was the plea of parents who lost their children in Uvalde. I met with every one of them. Do something about gun violence. Thank God. Thank God we did. Passing the most sweeping gun safety law in 3 decades. That includes things like that the majority of responsible gun owners already support. Enhanced background checks for 18 to 21 years old. Red flag laws, keeping guns out of the hands of people who are a danger to themselves and others. But we know our work is not done. Tonight is Brandon said, 26-year-old hero. Brandon put his college dreams on hold to be at his mom's side. His mom's side when she was dying from cancer. And Brandon now works at the dance studio started by his grandparents. And 2 weeks ago, during the Lunar New Year celebrations, he heard the studio door close. And he saw a man standing there pointing a semi-automatic pistol at him. He thought he was going to die, but he thought about the people inside. And in that instant, he found the courage to act and wrestled a semi-automatic pistol away from the gunman who had already killed 11 people in another dance studio. 11. He saved lives. It's time we do the same. Ban assault weapons now. Ban them now. Once and for all. I led the fight to do that in 1994. In 10 years, that ban was law and mass shootings went down. After we let it expire in the Republican administration, mass shootings tripled. Let's finish the job and ban these assault weapons. And let's also come together on immigration. Make it a bipartisan issue once again. We know we now have a record number of personnel working to secure the border, arresting 8,000 human smugglers, seizing over 23,000 pounds of fentanyl in just the last several months. We've launched a new border plan last month. Unlawful migration from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela has come down 97% as a consequence of that. But American border problems won't be fixed until Congress acts. If we don't pass my comprehensive immigration reform, at least pass my plan to provide the equipment and officers to secure the border. And a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those on temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Here in the People's House, it's our duty to protect all the people's rights and freedoms. Congress must restore the right and the Congress must restore the right that was taken away in Roe v. Wade and protect Roe v. Wade. Give every woman a constitutional right. The Vice President and I are doing everything to protect access to reproductive health care and safeguard patient safety. But already more than a dozen states are enforcing extreme abortion bans. Make no mistake about it. If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it. But let's also pass the Bipartisan Equality Act to ensure LGBTQ Americans, especially transgender young people, can live with safety and dignity. Our strength is not just the example of our power, but the power of our example. Let's remember the world's watching. I spoke in this chamber 1 year ago, just days after Vladimir Putin unleashed his brutal attack against Ukraine. a murderous assault, evoking images of death and destruction Europe suffered in World War II. Putin's invasion has been a test for the ages, a test for America, a test for the world. Would we stand for the most basic of principles? Would we stand for sovereignty? Would we stand for the right of people to live free of tyranny? Would we stand for the defense of democracy? For such defense matters to us because it keeps peace and prevents open season on would-be aggressors and threatens our prosperity. 1 year later, we know the answer. Yes, we would, and we did. We did. And together, we did what America always does at our best. We led. We united NATO. We built a global coalition. We stood against Putin's aggression. We stood with the Ukrainian people. Tonight, we're once again joined by Ukraine's ambassador to the United States. She represents not just her nation, but the courage of her people. Our ambassador is here, we're united in our support of your country. Will you stand so we can all take a look at you? Thank you. Because we're going to stand with you as long as it takes. Our nation is working for more freedom, more dignity, more peace, not just in Europe, but everywhere. Before I came to office, the story was about how the People's Republic of China was increasing its power and America was failing in the world. Not anymore. We made clear, and I made clear in my personal conversations, which have been many, with President Xi, that we seek competition, not conflict. But I will make no apologies that we're investing to make America stronger. Investing in American innovation and industries that will define the future that China intends to be dominating. Investing in our alliances and working with our allies to protect advanced technologies so they will not be used against us. Modernizing our military to safeguard stability and deter aggression. Today, we're in the strongest position in decades to compete with China or anyone else in the world. Anyone else in the world. And I'm committed. I'm committed to work with China where we can advance American interests and benefit the world. But make no mistake about it. As we made clear last week, if China threatens our sovereignty, we will act to protect our country, and we did. Look, let's be clear. Winning the competition should unite all of us. We face serious challenges across the world. But in the past 2 years, democracies have become stronger, not weaker. Autocracies have grown weaker, not stronger. Name me a world leader who changed places with Xi Jinping. Name me one. Name me one. America's rallying the world to meet those challenges, from climate to global health, to food insecurity, to terrorism, to territorial aggression. Allies are stepping up, spending more, and doing more. Look, the bridges we're forming between partners in the Pacific and those in the Atlantic, and those who bet against America are learning how wrong they are. It's never, ever been a good bet to bet against America. Never. Well, when I came to office, most assured that bipartisanship assumed was impossible, but never believed it. That's why a year ago I offered a unity agenda to the nation as I stood here. We made real progress together. We passed a law making it easy for doctors to prescribe effective treatments for opioid addiction. We passed the gun safety law, making historic investments in mental health. We launched the ARPA-H drive for breakthrough in the fights against cancer, Alzheimer's, and diabetes, and so much more. We passed The Heath Robinson Pact Act, named after the late Iraq War veteran whose story about exposure to toxic burn kits I shared here last year. I understand something about those burn pits, but there's so much more to do. We can do it together. Joining us tonight is a father named Doug from Newton, New Hampshire. He wrote Jill, my wife, a letter, and me as well, about his courageous daughter, Courtney. A contagious laugh, his sister's best friend, her sister's best friend. He shared a story all too familiar to millions of Americans and many of you in the audience. Courtney discovered pills in high school. It spiraled into addiction and eventually death from a fentanyl overdose. She was just 20 years old. Describing the last 8 years without her, Doug said, "There's no worse pain." Yet their family has turned pain to purpose, working to end the stigma and change laws. He told us he wants to start a journey toward American recovery. Doug, we're with you. Fentanyl is killing more than 70,000 Americans a year. You got it. So let's launch a major surge to stop fentanyl production and the sale and trafficking with more drug detection machines, inspection cargo, stop pills and powder at the border. Working with couriers like FedEx to inspect more packages for drugs. Strong penalties to crack down on fentanyl trafficking. Second, let's do more on mental health, especially for our children. When millions of young people are struggling with bullying, violence, trauma, we owe them greater access to mental health care at their schools. We must finally hold social media companies accountable for experimenting they're doing running children for profit. It's time to pass bipartisan legislation to stop big tech from collecting personal data on our kids and teenagers online, ban targeted advertising to children, and impose stricter limits on the personal data that companies collect on all of us. Third, let's do more to keep this nation's one truly sacred obligation to equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home. Job training, job placement for veterans and their spouses as they come to return to civilian life. Helping veterans afford the rent, because no one should be homeless in America, especially someone who served the country. Dennis McDonough is here of the VA. We had a first real discussion when I asked him to take the job. I'm glad he did. We were losing up to 25 veterans a day on suicide. Now we're losing 17 a day to the silent scourge of suicide. 17 veterans a day are committing suicide. More than all the people being killed in the wars. Folks, VA is doing everything it can, including expanding mental health screening, proven programs that recruits veterans to help other veterans understand what they're going through, get them the help they need. We got to do more. And fourth, last year, Jill and I reignited the cancer moonshot that I was able to start with President Obama asked me to lead our administration on this issue. Our goal is to cut the cancer death rates at least by 50% in the next 25 years. Turn more cancers from death sentences to treatable diseases. Provide more support for patients and their families. It's personal to so many of us in this audience. Joining us are Morris and Candice, an Irishman and a daughter of immigrants from Panama. They met and fell in love in New York City and got married in the same chapel Jill and I got married in New York City. Kindred spirits. He wrote us a letter about his little daughter, Ava, and I saw her just before I came over. She was just a year old when she was diagnosed with rare kidney disease, cancer. After 26 blood transfusions, 11 rounds of radiation, 8 rounds of chemo, 1 kidney removed, giving a 5% survival rate. He wrote how in the darkest moments he thought, if she goes, I can't stay. Many of you have been through that as well. Jill and I understand that like so many of you. And he read Jill's book describing our family's cancer journey and how we tried to steal moments of joy where we could with Bo. For them, that glimmer of joy was the half smile of their baby girl. It meant everything to them. They never gave up hope. Little Ava never gave up hope. She turns 4 next month. They just found out Ava's beating the odds, is on her way to being cured of cancer. And she's watching from the White House tonight, and she's not asleep already. For the lives we can save. For the lives we can save and the lives we've lost, let this be a truly American moment that rallies the country and the world together and proves that we can still do big things. 20 years ago, under the leadership of President Bush and countless advocates and champions, he undertook a bipartisan effort through PEPFAR to transform the global fight against HIV/AIDS. It's been a huge success. He thought big. He thought large. He moved. I believe we can do the same thing with cancer. Let's end cancer as we know it. Cure some cancers once and for all. Folks, there's one reason why we've been able to do all of these things. Our democracy itself. It's the most fundamental thing of all. With democracy, everything's possible. Without it, nothing is. The last few years, our democracy has been threatened and attacked, put at risk, put to the test in this very room on January the 6th. And then just a few months ago, an unhinged big lie assailed and unleashed a political violence, the home of the then Speaker of the House of Representatives, using the very same language the insurrectionists used as they stalked these halls and chanted on January 6th. Here tonight in this chamber is a man who bears the scars of that brutal attack, but is as tough and as strong and as resilient as they get. My friend Paul Pelosi. Paul, stand up. But such a heinous act should have never happened. We must all speak out. There's no place for political violence in America. We have to protect the right to vote, not suppress the fundamental right. Honor the results of our elections, not subvert the will of the people. We have to uphold the rule of law and restore trust in our institutions of democracy. And we must give hate and extremism in any form no safe harbor. Democracy must not be a partisan issue. It's an American issue. Every generation of Americans has faced a moment where they have been called to protect our democracy, defend it, stand up for it. And this is our moment. My fellow Americans, we meet tonight at an inflection point, one of those moments that only a few generations ever face, where the direction we now take is going to decide the course of this nation for decades to come. We're not bystanders of history. We're not powerless before the forces that confront us. It's within our power of we, the people. We're facing the test of our time. We have to be the nation we've always been at our best. Optimistic, hopeful, forward-looking. A nation that embraces light over dark, hope over fear, unity over division, stability over chaos. We have to see each other not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. We're good people. The only nation in the world built on an idea. The only one. Other nations are defined by geography, ethnicity. But we're the only nation based on an idea that all of us, every one of us, is created equal in the image of God. A nation that stands as a beacon to the world. A nation in a new age of possibilities. So I've come to fulfill my constitutional obligation to report in the State of the Union. And here's my report. Because the soul of this nation is strong, because the backbone of this nation is strong, because the people of this nation are strong, the State of the Union is strong. I'm not new to this place. I stand here tonight having served as long as about any one of you have ever served here. But I've never been more optimistic about our future, about the future of America. But just to remember who we are. We're the United States of America, and there's nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
Well, there we go. There you have it. About an hour and 15 minutes, I think, was the time of the speech. Okay, I've got some commentary here. I've been jotting some things down, and let me cut the volume down here just a little bit. Pop back over here and see what chat says. See what people thought. Well, why is that not working? Oh, there we go. See, why is that not working? I'm going to leave it up a little bit. No background noise. Okay. I guess we won't. There we go. All right. Hop over here and see what chat says. Hello to everybody. Hi, Sable. Hi, Patton. Hi, Easily Distracted. Biden did great is Easily Distracted's comment. Half the people will be happy with the address. The other half, not so much. Mags is so horrid. Oh, I didn't know that. Social Security state. Yeah, that was an interesting little twist there in the speech when he kind of put the onus where the onus belongs. The Republicans were not happy that the idea of cutting Social Security, of ending Social Security, of ending Medicare. That has been floated. We've talked about it on this show, and not something I just made up. We showed the receipts, if you will. And Mike Pence came out yesterday, I believe it was, with pretty much the same thing. That, you know, the way he sees it, it's time to end Social Security and time to end Medicare. And of course, if you are if you've gained multi-millions of dollars being a politician, Medicare, Social Security may not matter so much. If your mom or dad or your grandpa or grandma or you yourself, as I am, require, Social Security and Medicare is necessary. Anyway, so no passing of democratic reforms. Hopefully there will be enough people wanting to cross the aisle. But some of the things that were talked about, I'll touch on here in just a minute. Hello, watching people win or fail. Hi, Laura. Yes, it just ended. The speech just ended. Biden is just Obama 2.0. What happened to the money we have put in to Medicare and Social Security? Um, the government, they've been raiding the Social Security fund for a very long time. If you remember back to Al Gore running against George Bush, Al Gore, one of the things he ran on was, I'm going to put Social Security in a lockbox so no one can touch Social Security. And instead of that being a great idea, became, because of Saturday Night Live and the parody and the word lockbox getting blown up, Social Security was never protected the way it should have been and the way Gore proposed back then. So the quickest way to pay down the debt is to take a bunch of money that people have been contributing to a fund they've been contributing to, the Social Security fund, and you take all that money and pay off the debt, and the government's fine and screwed the senior citizens. That's the basic long and short of it. That's what the talk is. So just be aware. Nathan, Wayne, characterization by the showing prejudice or discrimination. Okay, you guys are talking with each other. Does it sound like we should be worried about it ending? Laura, Jim Jordan. Just look up Jim Jordan or Mike Pence. Those are the most recent out of several Republicans. Just look up, just a quick search of Republican plan. Just search Republican plans to end Social Security and Medicare, and you'll see the names pop up. Which I found them booing that Biden made it public. Them booing like they hadn't been doing it. I found that rather odd. Something that you may not have noticed, but you will be hearing about, is something called the 1870 button. The 1870 buttons were being worn by members of the Black Caucus. And the reason for the 1870 button is because the year 1870 was the very first time a free Black person was killed by a police officer. So the 1870 button, you'll be hearing about that. A couple of overarching themes, if you will, to the speech: the idea of possibility, and the idea of let's finish the job. You heard those two threads run throughout much of the speech: possibilities and let's finish the job. We've done this much. Let's finish the job. It was one of the phrases tossed throughout there. Let's see. In the beginning, when he is not on teleprompter, he can really make some gaffes. He talks really quick, as a lot of people on the East Coast. People on the East Coast talk faster than so he can get going real fast, and his words get jumbled, and it makes him look older. But in the very beginning, he acknowledged Mitch McConnell when Mitch McConnell's not the majority leader of the Senate. There were things throughout, and there are things always with him that remind us just how old he really is. And Donald Trump is in the same category. And like I said in the beginning of all this, a pretty significant majority of the country doesn't want either Donald Trump or Joe Biden anywhere near the White House in 2024. And, that's going to be something to think about over the next couple of years. One other thing I mean, there are a couple other things on here, but um, he mentioned a non-compete clause for fast food restaurants. I imagine he's probably going to take a couple of whacks for that because I'm not sure that's a thing. Um, he also made it really clear that he wanted to overturn the Supreme Court's ruling um, eliminating Roe v. Wade, and that if he kind of laid down a gauntlet in that if Congress passed making it illegal all across the United States, that he would veto that. Um, he also called for a ban on assault weapons. This is going to spark, as it does each and every time, it's going to spark, number one, the debate of what is an assault weapon. And then it will bring the Second Amendment arguments back up as they always seem to rise. One thing, we are now roughly, we're in the second full year of the Biden presidency, and he is coming up on, he's going to be starting to campaign for another 4 years. And there's a philosophy in politics called "Don't change your horse midstream." What's that mean? It's a really good idea to be in war when you're coming. You need to be at war when you're coming up to run for your second term in office, and especially if you're a weak president and you are at war, you can use the setup is you go to war so that you have a conflict going and you tell the people, you don't want to change horses in midstream. We're in the middle of this war. Now's not the time to be messing with leadership. And it's been proven to be a pretty effective political philosophy. You can go back and check if you so desire. And that's basically the most of the notes I've got. So again, I'll hop over here to the chat real quick. If Republicans can ban a woman's right to choose, then I think we should ban assault weapons. It's about protecting children, right? That's from Nathan. She-Hawk, hate the war, love the soldier. Hi, Hot Mess Summer. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. Sandy Foster Mater. Use your words. Okay. My thoughts. I was in politics. I spent a fair amount of time in Washington, D.C. and kind of behind the scenes. I'm always cynical. I'm always skeptical. No matter which party is in, no matter who's speaking. I'm gonna tell you what, I'm not going to tell you how to think or what to think, blah, 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 blah. We don't do that. I am going to say that not everything that gets said not everything that gets said is something that is even going to be a priority. This speech is important in that it is kind of a way of paying political debt. The people that are responsible for getting him elected, the people that are responsible for getting his legislation passed, it's a way of saying, I hear the priorities you have. The priorities you have are my priorities, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And a lot of times they know that they're not going to do this. They're not going to do that. It's political theater. And a lot of the message is not really directed to people at home watching. us, regular people. And you can tell that because they make sure, no, now you people at home, this is something you're going to want to know about. Like the whole rest of it's not really for us. We'll tell you when you should pay attention, which I've always found. Anyway, again, that's the cynical side of things, because I don't know, I didn't play the game right. Um, the message was an attempt at trying to achieve unity, trying to bring hope, and in a really hard situation. I'm kind of surprised he didn't go into a little bit more about Ukraine and that situation, and about the potential dangers. But the framing of it was that the State of the Union is strong. He used that at the very end, and I'm not so sure the argument was successfully made in the speech that the State of the Union is strong. That is a non-biased political analysis of the speech. All right, totally non-biased. Would I have liked to seen an incredible knockout speech that rallied the entire? Well, of course, but realistically, what happened was, I don't know as the speech necessarily proved that the State of the Union is strong, personally. So, anybody have anything? ACB says Ukraine is almost over. Russia needs its homeland back. Actually, as far as world history goes, ACB, Ukraine was around a long time before Russia. Russia, actually, it was a territory called Moscow that was the first beginning of what became the Empire of Russia. So it was actually the Ukrainian territory first, but technicalities, and I know some people don't like, if it doesn't fit the narrative, then facts get in the way. How could it have rallied the entire Congress? Did you not hear the hecklers? They will not bend. Yeah, no, you can't rally the entire Congress. No, and yes, I did hear the hecklers, and I'm imagining Matt Gaetz will probably learn tomorrow that Matt Gaetz was one of the major hecklers. And again, I don't think it was a bad speech. I think he tried to pay political capital. I was kind of surprised. Really, I was, when he came out and said we need to ban assault weapons. I wasn't anticipating that. When he came out so clearly and said, the federal government now, it's up to Congress now to protect the healthcare individuality and healthcare choices that women make. And they came out and said, we got to reform the police. He came out and made statements. Now, this is one of those, and you're not going to like it. I know you're not going to like it, but this is one of those situations where it could be, it's great to say they're saying it because we want to hear it, but they also know they're not going to do it. Okay. And I know people don't like hearing that stuff, but it happens. And those major strong points that I was kind of surprised, as I said, the way he put them in, it may just be, again, it's the cynic in me, but it may not really be a priority. It may just be a payment of political capital or clout, which, every people understand as far as the internet goes. I hope it's not the case, but again, you know, it's one club out there, whether we like it or not, and we are not in it. Love Gates, my congressman. Okay. MTG, Bobo, and Gates are a joke. Okay. Um, yeah, summer spent a little time in some state houses and some courthouses, and once you've done that, once you kind of see how politics works, even on the local level, um, you might be amazed anything gets done at all, because I am sometimes. Um, I don't know. Don't care who runs, but I am not voting for anyone over 60 for president again. Patton my crotch. That's, you know, um, I understand that totally. Totally understand why, um, why many Americans will be feeling that way, especially Americans that aren't over 60, you know. I mean, I'm there, but I understand that I surely do not want um the president that was the 45th president. I just absolutely do not um do not want him. At the same time, I'm going to shoot from the hip. I'm going to be honest with you again. Some of you aren't going to like what I'm about to say, but Mike Pence and DeSantis would be worse. Now, on the other side, um, I'm surprised Biden's still there. I didn't know if he'd make it a year. Um, I really didn't, and I'm surprised he's still there. I don't know if he'll finish out his term. I sure hope he does. I don't wish him any ill. I wish him success. Um, there are a whole bunch of people that do not understand that by sending money to Ukraine, um, we are not fighting a war ourselves, and none of our soldiers are getting killed. Um, the money we send to Ukraine, while it seems outlandish to some, use your head here for just a second. It is so much cheaper than fighting a war. And if we weren't sending that money, we would have to be fighting that war. It's just how it lines up. Um, do I agree with all war? No. That's why I got in politics. I didn't want us going into Iraq. I thought the focus should have been on Afghanistan, where Osama bin Laden was, not on Iraq, where Saddam Hussein was. But I digress. Who else is going to come out of the Democratic Party? Patton McCrotch put something out that I'm glad he did, because a whole bunch of people are going to be feeling this way. And she's young, but the country is getting younger. Don't be surprised if AOC gets thrown around as a name that could energize the Democratic Party in 2024. I hope Bernie's done. I love Bernie. I mean, not but I don't love Bernie. I respect what Bernie tried to do, and I was a delegate to the National Convention in 2016 in Philadelphia, and a Bernie delegate. But I hope Bernie's done, and I hope Hillary's done, and I hope all of the I'm with Pat McCrotch. I want to see new blood. Um, I don't want to see DeSantis. As I said, DeSantis or Pence would be worse than Trump because DeSantis and Pence actually know how to work the religion aspect of it, and they would be much more dangerous and much more divisive. And if you watch Florida as the next 2 years unfold, you're seeing right now in Florida, they're saying, we're not going to teach Black history. Okay. Even if it's an advanced placement course that will get you into college, we're not going to offer, we're not going to teach Black history. Anybody in Florida, they're working right now. Anybody in Florida, you don't have to have a permit to buy a gun, carry a gun, use a gun. Watch Florida over the next 2 years, and you'll see that what DeSantis is trying to do there is what he's going to try to sell to the rest of the country. And over the next 2 years, the limited times that we do talk about these topics, you'll hear me talk much more about potential Republican candidates, and that's simply because a member of the Democratic Party holds the office and is presumed to be the presumptive nominee. You generally in your party you don't go against a sitting president. Again, I think that'll probably change in 2024, just because of the environment. But if all the numbers Biden's administration put out in that speech tonight, if they all are holding true, we are, coming back economically a little bit, but we always have to remember that, or at least from my perspective, the most important time in a speech like this is 90 minutes, an hour and 30 minutes after the speech. It's 90 minutes after the speech. That's not when the ratings come in. That's not when the reactions come in. That's when the fact checks come in. Okay. And you always have to make sure, no matter what party it is, you better be fact checking politicians. Okay. I'm just saying. All right. Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg. I could see either one of those. Yeah. Normally, what you do is what Pete did. You run the first time to try to win the next time. If you're brand new to the scene, and since he did run, and now he's been, he's not just the former mayor of South Bend, Indiana anymore. He's a secretary of transportation, so he's a cabinet post. He's held cabinet post positions, which elevates him. Amy, of course, is a senator, and she ran last time, and she's still relatively young enough, I think, that that there's not a stain or like Nancy Pelosi. Okay, Nancy's been around so long that there is such a just a negative image, which is not always based in reality, but it's what's happened. It's what happens in politics, because you're kind of placed on a pedestal, if you will, and the longer you're up there, the more people want to knock you off, and the longer you stay up there, the more people hate you because you haven't been knocked off yet. If that makes sense. Linda, look at the history of Black oppressions. Okay. Okay. Things popped up here real fast in chat, and I can't read through an entire comment before it disappears. If Pete had a Ross Perot charisma, he would have a chance. He doesn't have a lot of charisma, in my opinion, either, Max. He's got a good resume. He's a veteran. He's been in public service. I'm not going to say he's a public servant. I don't know him that well, but he's been in public service, and it could be, it could be just that he was young and it was his first time around. He may come out on the campaign trail this second time and be much more confident and portray a totally different vibe, a totally different personality. I'm sharing facts and history, not being nasty. Yeah, that's what we try to do here. Hi, Violet. That Violet, thank you. But that happens. That happens on here. That happens on all the chats. And that is what democracy is. It is the back and forth from both sides of situations, and in hope that it never becomes too volatile that we can't remember we have common ground. Everybody's always talking about we need to search and find common. We've got common ground. We're all freaking Americans. Let's remember that and start there. Those of us that are. My apologies to you watching in Europe and wherever else you're watching in the world. This is one of those nights. Okay, so my apologies to everybody that is not American watching. But as far as those of us that are Americans, we've already got the common ground. We're Americans. It's all the crap and all the entities that work to divide us, including the two political parties. Okay. So I'm going to remind us all that we already have that common ground. We're already Americans. Let's start from there and see where we can go. To quote Joe Biden, let's finish the job. No, but seriously, we're all Americans. Remember that. It's such an asinine thing to have to say. But we already have common ground, and we do want the same things in many circumstances. And we are never going to get 100% of anybody doing anything. 100% doesn't matter. Never conceivable. The key is let's find enough. Let's find enough people that want to make a difference, and let's find out how we can do it. That's how change happens. One person talking to another person, talking to another person, and all of a sudden you got a whole bunch of people. It's hard. It takes time. It takes effort. It is frustrating, but it's the only way things get done. Just something to think about. Nikki's very good looking, speaks well, very diplomatic, and has experience. I'm assuming you're talking about Nikki Haley. And the first Nikki that popped into my mind was Wyckoff's wife. And the more I read, I'm pretty certain you're talking about Nikki Haley. Not to disparage Wyckoff's wife. Just I saw Nikki. And Nikki Haley could be she could be a potential probably vice presidential candidate in a ticket on that side. Also have brown and black children. I think CRT in middle school and up is fine. That's Nikki Haley. That's what I thought, Max. Thanks. Yeah, that's there are some things you just question. You know, why why do they not want people to know the history of what happened to the members of the Black community? Uh, why is it they do not want what happened to Native Americans to be known? Um, we can't always just chant USA, USA, USA. We're the greatest in the world. We're the greatest in the world. We have to remember to look at our faults, our frailties, our weaknesses, and not just try to put putty over everything, smooth it out, and pretend like you gotta, you're putting lipstick on a pig. Um, I can't say that I would say the state of our union is strong, simply because of the factors I see online. The people pushing incredibly horrendous things, in my opinion. So I can't say it's strong. I can say I believe it's stronger now than it would have been under a second term of the 45th president, and we'll see what happens over this next year. I'm going to be on here for just a couple of more minutes. We're coming up on 11 o'clock. They're going to be Summer. Are you going to have a show tonight? Are you going to have a panel tonight or anything? I'm sure they're going to be chat panels up. I don't know if Jeff or Telescope or if anybody is up. As far as if any of the normal channels are up and broadcasting, but we're going to shut her down here in just a couple of minutes. Okay, you guys are talking amongst yourselves. All right, and that's cool. Again, whoa, Mr. Bojangles, thank you very much. How about Mary Patola? I'm gonna have to check. I'm gonna have to go a little bit more in depth on Mary Patola. Are you considering for like some kind of federal post or something? I'll write that down. Okay. Summer's a real deal, in case you haven't figured that out yet. So, thank you all for being here. Greatly appreciate you all watching. Greatly appreciate you all sticking around. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this tomorrow night. I'm going to process it a little bit, and like I said, one of the keys for me personally is the fact checking that comes out afterwards. I want to make sure, before I talk too much, because there were some bright spots. There were some high points. There were some power statements from President Biden, and it was a much different speech, a much different delivery, and a much different personality than the 45th president was. So. Again, thank you all for being here, and somebody's going to be up. I don't know if Telly's up or Jeff, or if Summer's going to pop up with a stream. somebody will be up. It's relatively early, just now 11 o'clock. So I will be back tomorrow night, and tomorrow night we'll be on at 10 normal time. I may move up to 9. I may start doing the show at 9 while it's still cold out. In the summer at 9 o'clock, it's still light out. So, but I may move up to 9 o'clock. I know that would be 6 o'clock on the West Coast, and that may be too early for West Coast viewers. I don't know. So let me know if you would, if you have an opinion, if you care. If you'd like to see the show move up to 9 p.m. for the next couple of months while it's still relatively cold, let me know about that. If you're on the West Coast and that would be too early, let me know that. Just let me know and we'll see. But as of right now, tomorrow night we'll be on at 10 o'clock, and you know who will be with us? Cunning Stunt and GA from CA. And it's always great to talk with those two ladies. We'll talk about the speech tonight, and we'll have some fun. We'll we'll tease and laugh and do what we do on Wednesday nights. And hopefully you'll be here with us. Thursday night we'll be doing game night. It looks like as of right now. Then next week we got Super Bowl coming Sunday. So the week after, I'm going to start doing panels on Sundays. Not the 19-hour panels, not the, we're going to do like a monitored 2 to 4 hour panel on a particular topic. And the Sunday after the Super Bowl is going to be the first Sunday I do it, Sunday afternoon, if I can get it done. And I'd like to have an all female panel for this first panel. I'd really like to have a couple of people that I've wanted to talk to for quite a while now, and first talked with them back in the Behind the Mirror Discord days. I'd like to get Baby. I know she goes to bed relatively early, so maybe on a Sunday afternoon it'll be able to work. I'd like to get Lisa Hurley as well. I'd like to get 6 ladies total, if we, 4 to 6, and I'd like to have some more conservative, a couple of more conservative ladies as well, and we're just going to have a conversation about the state of womanhood, and I'm going to sit back and listen and just break up fights if necessary, and I don't think that will be a case. And I'm just going to sit back and learn, and let the women talk. So if you're interested in doing that, if you want to be a part of that, let me know. Email me, americandufus, americandufus @gmail.com. And let me know what you think about the time of the show too, if we should move up, another hour. If you want to make a general statement, you make a general statement. See, She-Hawk's laughing at me. I'm not sure why, but I'm sure it's deserved. Oh, Sassy Pats, thank you for being here. Sassy, if you want to come on, if you'd like to come on a panel too, we've talked in chat before, but I don't think we've ever had a conversation. And again, if somebody, if you're somebody that would like to do that, let me know. It'll be a week from this coming Sunday. In between that time, again, tomorrow night, it's Cunning Stunt and GA from CA. Thursday night, we'll be doing game night. And then next Monday, I'm not sure what's going to happen yet next Monday. I've got something in the works. Next Tuesday will be the 14th, and that will be Valentine's Day. I'm hoping that I can get GA and Cunning on that night. on Tuesday, because Wednesday the 15th, I'm going to be interviewing Corinne right here. And as of right now, it's going to be 10 o'clock. If we move it up to 9, she would like that. 10 o'clock's late for her. She would like that. But so as of right now, that's what's coming the next couple of weeks. That's what you can look forward to from the Sable. Oh boy, Corinne. Oh boy. Oh Lord. Yeah, I've already had a whole lot of advice, including, some people were Wizzy. I think it was Wizzy and Telescope were both telling me I needed to do double shots, before that interview, but that's not going to be the case. It'll be a good time. It'll be something people will be looking forward to. Womanhood topic. Yes, McKaylee. And if you'd like to, hey, if you want to come on and talk, send me an email. And of course, yeah, Cunning and GA will probably, they're kind of like the residents, and they'll probably be in there in that panel as well. So, I love y'all sincerely. Thank you. If you'd like to help support the show, Cashapp, $ American Doofus, all one word. You want to reach out, email americandufus, all one word, @gmail.com. And hit that like button if you would. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing. They do help the algorithms. They do help the channel. It's, I'll show you tomorrow night, maybe, or Thursday night, maybe. But on average, I make about $25 a month doing this from YouTube. So we don't do it. We do it because we like to do it. We're not doing it because it's making us rich. All right. Just so you all know. I really do. We're doing it because we care and we love you. And we'll be on tomorrow night, 10 o'clock, GA from CA and Cunning Stunt. And we'll have all the news, and then we'll have some fun. And until then, I wish you nothing but positive vibrations, positive thoughts, blessings. Namaste, shalom, salam, assalamu alaikum. Blessings in the name of the Most High from His Son, Christ Jesus, and the power of the Holy Spirit if you're a fellow Christian. And much love. It truly is a dark world. And try to be a light. See you tomorrow night. Thank you again for clicking.